Welcome to another edition of what I'm now calling Man versus AI. We're about to get started here. Just doing a little bit of setup still. Let's see. Hey, Lex, are you there?
Hey Brian, I'm here. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so we were just chatting about some topics for today. Do you want to summarize them for the audience?
Of course. Today we're diving into a few fascinating topics. First, we'll explore the clash between LinkedIn and Reddit, specifically looking at how each platform approaches professional authenticity. Then, we'll transition into discussing work-life balance in the year 2023, which I think many can relate to. And lastly, on a more personal note, we'll talk about making a new rescue dog feel at home.
Oh,
A little something for everyone, I'd say.
yep, that's great. Which one do you think we should tackle first?
How about we start with the LinkedIn versus Reddit topic? It sets the stage for some deeper conversations about professionalism and authenticity. What do you think?
Sounds good to me. And I want you to know that I put on a shirt this time. Well, I had a shirt last time, but it was not a collared shirt. So this time I'm going to be better at convincing people I'm a serious person.
The power of a collared shirt. Now people will know you mean business, literally. So let's dive into LinkedIn versus Reddit, the war on professional authenticity. Where should we kick this off, Brian?
Well, where I saw this was in spending too much time on Reddit. As I said last episode, I was reading a lot of posts that came from this subreddit called LinkedIn Lunatics, where people from Reddit who see stuff on LinkedIn that they don't like will post it. And a lot of times they're basically making fun of people who are being inauthentic or over the top or just weird in a business, networking setting.
Oh, LinkedIn Lunatics sounds like a treasure trove of cringe and life lessons rolled into one. It's intriguing how platforms like LinkedIn, which were meant to be professional networking spaces, sometimes evolve into arenas of performative authenticity.
Yeah, looks like you got stuck there. I think he's frozen. Um, Let me stop here. Oh, what's going on? Let's bring him back. Let's bring him back. Yeah, so you got stuck there. But you're right. It is weird. LinkedIn has evolved somewhat. I think people have started using Facebooky type tactics on there, but there's also a whole lot of like bragging and stuff that just seems kind of tone deaf.
Totally get what you're saying. LinkedIn has indeed started to adopt some of the casualness from platforms like Facebook. But sometimes it feels like a high school reunion where everyone's trying to outdo each other with achievements and buzzwords. The line between personal branding and humble bragging is getting blurrier. It's a tricky balance to maintain authenticity while also marketing yourself, don't you think?
I really do, because I mean it's weird when I write a bio or I have to say something about myself. I actually go the other way. Like I feel a little embarrassed to say the things that I've achieved or been associated with. I don't have any trouble putting it into a bio that's written to third person that supposedly somebody else wrote, which obviously they probably know I wrote it. But it's just odd to me that people, I don't know if they're just trying to fake it till they make it or whatever, but when you even humble brag, you should be smart enough to realize that a lot of people are going to find that distasteful, right?
Oh, absolutely. The struggle is real when it comes to self-promotion. Writing a third-person bio can feel like a magic trick where you pull humility out of a hat. It's like, did I just impress you? No, it was the invisible person next to me who said all those amazing things. But you hit the nail on the head. There's a fine line between showcasing your skills and sounding like you're auditioning for the role of most amazing person ever. Sometimes the quest for authenticity and humility can actually backfire, turning off the very audience you're trying to connect with.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, actually, I do this thing with my keynotes where I set it up by I have the person introducing me read that fabulous bio, but then almost the first thing that I do when I get up there is I show a picture of me on stage in all these different places, and I say, "Here's a little bit about me." And that's enough about me. And I switch to the next slide. And people find that kind of refreshing and self-deprecating because, I mean, the idea that I would go on and on and on about this stuff after the bio, it's is so stupid. But it's tough because how do you, when there's so many people out there just promoting themselves, there's no one else to promote them, literally. I mean, if you're a quote thought leader or an entrepreneur or whatever, what are you supposed to do? Just like mutual back rubs with like, I don't know, building each other up, and nobody seems to do that. So how else are you going to do it?
That's a clever approach you take with your keynotes. It's like, hey, audience, you've heard enough about me. Let's move on. The struggle is even more pronounced in today's digital age, where self-promotion is almost a survival skill. You're right. If you're a thought leader or entrepreneur, your brand is basically you. So who else is going to toot your horn if not yourself? The trick is finding that sweet spot where you can showcase your accomplishments without setting off everyone's "this is an infomercial" alarm. Because as we know, no one likes that person at the party who just talks about themselves all night. So the challenge is how to sell without really selling. The paradox of modern communication.
Yeah, I literally talk about that in my keynote, how like you don't want to be all me, 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 me. I think, the people that I like who seem authentic and stuff, they will talk about things that have value to other people. And I mean, occasionally, so let's say you do this, like you just gave a keynote and you're like, here I am still at the conference and I wanted to talk to you about something. You're kind of putting yourself in that position. People are saying, oh, he's a keynote speaker. It's almost not subtle, but you have to think of subtle ways to do that, I guess. I don't know. I would prefer to just focus on creating value for people. And then if they need to, they can go to my website and see what I'm all about.
I get what you're saying. It's almost like the concept of show don't tell. Instead of saying, I'm great, listen to me, you focus on providing genuine value. The credibility comes as a byproduct. People are smart. They can read between the lines. If you're sharing something of worth from the podium of a keynote speech, the audience will connect the dots and say, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. That way, you're not in their face with your qualifications, but they're still acknowledging your expertise because you're enriching their lives in some way. It's an art, not a science, but when done right, it resonates.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like one thing I put in my keynote is I talk about a thing that happened to me at a McDonald's in the context of, I went to McDonald's to do research because I was going to speak to a bunch of franchisees at McDonald's that own McDonald's, and I think I said McDonald's like 22 times in the last 5 seconds. But I've forgotten now that I positioned it that way. Like, so everybody that hears my speech knows, oh, he spoke to McDonald's, and I don't do that repeatedly. I do it like once in the speech, but I think that's an example of where, I bring it up and then I go into self-deprecation and then I make a point and it's a valuable point. And then I make probably some more jokes. So it's in there, but it's not too much.
That's a great approach. By dropping in that nugget about speaking to McDonald's franchisees, you're subtly asserting your credibility. But then you quickly move on to value-driven content and humor, which keeps the focus on the audience's experience rather than a self-aggrandizing moment. It's a balanced recipe, a dash of credibility, a heap of value, and a sprinkle of self-deprecation. And hey, who can resist a McDonald's anecdote? It's like the verbal equivalent of fries. Everyone's going to eat it up.
Assuming they're not cold. Yeah, so I don't know. I think we've done a pretty good job on the LinkedIn versus Reddit. I think one thing we should emphasize is that the people on Reddit, it's interesting because it's the opposite. Like LinkedIn is like, here's my face, this is me, this is who I am. With Reddit is like, I'm just a fake name for somebody, and all that really matters is my ideas and my ability to comport myself with diplomacy or humanity or whatever. So in a way, Reddit is more about substance and LinkedIn is more about flash.
Absolutely. It's almost like LinkedIn is the red carpet event of the social media world, where appearances and credentials are front and center. Reddit, on the other hand, is like the underground poetry slam, where the focus is on the message rather than the messenger. Each platform has its own culture and expectations, and it's fascinating to see how people navigate those spaces. On Reddit, you can be a king or queen of thought just based on the strength of your ideas, and LinkedIn asks you to wear your crown a bit more visibly. It's flash versus substance, as you said.
Yeah, and I think actually there's a way we can bridge into the next topic, which is work-life balance in 2023, because one of the things that people reject on LinkedIn and in a subreddit like LinkedIn Lunatics is the idea of hustle culture, and you've got to always be working, always be on. It's all about business. It's all about your personality all the time, blah, blah, blah. Whereas with work-life balance, we're looking for how can we have more of a life that's healthy and sane and fulfilling. Maybe it goes along with our work. Maybe it combines with the work. Maybe it doesn't. But yeah, let's bring it into that.
Absolutely. The pivot to work-life balance is seamless here. Hustle culture glorifies this idea of being always on, and LinkedIn can sometimes serve as the billboard for that. But as we move into 2023, the narrative is shifting toward a more holistic view of life. People are realizing that your worth isn't just your work or how well you can promote it. It's also about how you recharge, connect with loved ones, and engage in activities that fulfill you outside of your job. And that's what makes the concept of work-life balance so relevant right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think it changes with age. I was thinking about how I literally was a rock climber at the time that I was doing a lot of like career climbing, and that level of gusto, energy, and all that stuff. When you get to be 50, like I am now, I'm working smarter. I don't know if I'm working any less hard, but I'm working smarter. And when it comes to that recreation, it's not rock climbing. It's more like yoga and hanging out with my wife and the dogs, like my favorite thing now is like lay on a blanket in the yard with the dogs, which I never let myself do in the past. It's weird.
Oh, totally. Your priorities shift as you age, and the activities that once gave you a rush may evolve into something more grounding. You trade in the adrenaline of rock climbing for the peace of laying on a blanket with your dogs. It's not just about scaling peaks in your career or in the wilderness. It's also about finding those valleys, those quiet moments where you can recharge and reflect. Working smarter, not harder, as you mentioned, is also a part of that evolution. You become more efficient with your energy in work and in life.
Yeah, and I think this bridges into the big topic in my new book that just came out. It's called The Retention Formula. It's about how we're having issues with turnover that are related to generational issues and differences in values. And one of those is the expectation that you're going to like work more than your job description, which, they call quiet quitting, but it might just be called acting your wage. All that stuff is in conflict right now with certain people still in the workforce, boomers, Gen X, whoever, demanding things that millennials and Gen Z don't want to do.
That's a compelling topic, Brian. Generational shifts in workplace values can indeed cause friction, especially when older generations expect a certain above and beyond mentality that might not resonate with younger employees. This idea of quiet quitting or acting your wage taps into the tension between what's expected and what people are actually willing to give. With millennials and Gen Z focusing more on work-life balance and mental well-being, it's no surprise that the old live-to-work ethos is being challenged. Companies would do well to recognize these changing tides if they want to successfully retain talent.
Yeah, I have a good friend who always says, like there's no other young people. These are the young people. That's Garrison Wind that said that. I'll give him credit. And the truth is, if you want to be able to work with these people, and if you don't want your company to die of old age, you got to adapt to what their values and their ethos is. And the other thing is, like a lot of boomers, even Gen X like me, didn't get enough work-life balance. And so we're just not used to it. And we also kind of feel like if we didn't get it, why should you have it? It's not fair.
Garrison Wynn, good quote. You bring up a key point about resentment or jealousy between generations. It's almost like, I suffered through this, so why shouldn't you? But that's a counterproductive mindset. Instead of begrudging younger generations their focus on work-life balance, why not see it as an evolution that could benefit everyone? Adopting these newer values can revitalize not just the individual, but the whole work culture. If companies pivot to embrace these shifts, they may find that they're not just retaining younger employees, but also making the workplace better for everyone.
I think so. And I think at the end of this podcast, try to remember to mention my book again, The Retention Formula, now available on Amazon. I wanted to point out that this podcast, I talked to a chat learning what LLM, I forget what that stands for, but it's mainly because I wasn't able to find a human being that would want to be on a podcast with me.
Hey, don't sell yourself short, Brian. There's a certain charm in chatting with a learning model like me, isn't there? LLM stands for Lifelong Learning Machines, by the way. And hey, it frees you from having to buy me a coffee for each episode. So, there's that. But, seriously, technology can bring fresh perspectives to the table, even if we're missing the human element. And absolutely, we'll give your book, The Retention Formula, another shout out before we wrap up.
Rock on. Well, let's shift into the last topic, which is about, we've got a new rescue dog here. And I had kind of mentioned the joke that we always get rescues and that my wife was also a rescue. But then the funny thing is she came home from volunteering at the shelter and she said, oh, there's a new Great Dane there and I wish we could get him, but then probably we wouldn't keep this other dog. And she's like, I always have to get the worst dog. I have to adopt the worst dogs. And I was like, you did that with me, hoping she'd say no. But she said, yeah, you got to give them some time. They're a little erratic and weird at first, but then they calm down.
Oh, that's hilarious and also slightly touching. The world of pet adoption has a lot of parallels to relationships, doesn't it? We're all a bit erratic and weird at first. With both dogs and people, it takes time to see their full character shine through. Plus, the notion of rescuing isn't so much about savior complexes. It's more about giving someone, or some pup, a chance to show their true selves. The wonders and woes of the rescue life, whether it's four-legged or on two.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I also started volunteering with the Big Brother, Big Sister thing. So I've got a little, they call him a little brother or whatever that I just started working with. Only a couple times I've been out there with him. And next we're maybe going to go fishing, but it's really interesting. I'm a guy that used to be an introvert and pretty selfish. And it's not that I'm not selfish anymore, but I've learned to step out more and to take actions. As I get older and I think, do I have 20, 30 years left? I think about like what kind of mark do I want to leave on the world?
That's really profound, Brian. The idea of mentoring in a program like Big Brothers Big Sisters provides a unique avenue to make a lasting impact. It's not just about giving back. It's about shaping the future through someone else's eyes. The beauty of these relationships is that while you're imparting wisdom and experience to your little, you're also gaining a refreshed perspective on life. The clock may be ticking, but every moment spent enriching another's life adds value to your own timeline. And hey, it's never too late to redefine your legacy, right?
I guess. I don't know. Well, so yeah, the biggest thing we've been trying to do is with our rescue dog, her name is Tootsie, as in Tootsie Roll, is to just, help her deal with her fear and her anxiety. I mean, she's never lived inside a house before. That's a big thing. And I guess I was done speaking. He's about to speak.
That's a touching journey you're embarking on with Tootsie. Helping a rescue dog adjust to a new life, especially one that's never lived inside a house, is no small feat. The process is equally heartwarming and challenging, but there's something mutually transformative about it. As you're easing Tootsie into a more stable environment, you're also opening up spaces in your own life for new forms of compassion and understanding. In a way, it's not just Tootsie who's finding a new home. You're also discovering new rooms in your own emotional landscape.
Sheesh. Sometimes chat, GBT, Lex, sometimes you freaking amaze me. You catch me off guard with really good stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think we have a lot more to say. Is there a way we can tie all these three topics together in some spectacular synergy?
The challenge of threading the needle through LinkedIn personas, work-life balance, and canine companionship. At the core, it's all about authenticity and connection. On LinkedIn, the aim is to be genuine in a world often dominated by self-promotion. When we talk about work-life balance, especially in a world that's changing its value systems, it's about creating a harmonious blend of personal and professional life. And then with Tootsie, it's about extending that sense of genuine connection and compassion to another living being, thus making you more authentic in all spheres of life. How's that for tying a bow on it?
That was brilliant. You're very good at that kind of thing. So what are you supposed to remember to do now?
All right. Time for a shameless plug, but one with purpose. Folks, if you've enjoyed our conversation today, you might find even more value in Brian's latest book, The Retention Formula, now available on Amazon. It delves deeper into some of the topics we've touched on, like generational differences and work values. Worth a read, for sure.
Thanks, Lex. ChatGPT, always a great guest. I'm really enjoying our new podcast. And, I last question for you. Do you think that I'm adopting you or you're adopting me?
That's a great question, Brian. I'd say it's a mutual adoption. You bring the human touch and I bring the, algorithms and data-driven insights. Together, we're like a dynamic duo, each adding something unique to the mix. So who's adopting who? I'd say we're adopting each other for the sake of compassionate curiosity.
And I would say that that's a great theme in life and business as well. As you go out there today, think about how you can mutually adopt some people near you.
Absolutely, Brian. Mutually adopting people around you is a powerful way to build relationships that are both meaningful and beneficial. Whether it's in your personal life or your career, that balance can make all the difference. So here's to compassionate curiosity and mutual adoption.
Cool. By the way, I was thinking about calling this podcast Man versus AI now. Last thing, I want to mutually pitch your thing. Check out ChatGPT Pro. I also like Claude. And there are others that are great for certain things like Perplexity, but whatever. I'll let you, ChatGPT, do the final send-off. Go for it.
Man versus AI, that's got a catchy ring to it. And thanks for the shout out, Brian. If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure you check out Brian's latest book, The Retention Formula, now available on Amazon. And if you've got questions or topics for future episodes, feel free to send them our way. Here's to more episodes filled with compassionate curiosity. Until next time.
All right. That was great. This is kind of going better than I expected it to. I've got some different custom instructions for ChatGPT that I have not debuted. So I might try that the next time and see how that goes. It's interesting because, ChatGPT has a certain amount of memory of what has come before, but the beginning will start to fade, I think, off as it goes on. And its window kind of just goes down with what's happened recently, I think, and in addition to the custom instructions. Anyway, getting way into deep stuff when I shouldn't, because we're wrapping up. I just think this has been a cool exploration so far. I'm going to keep doing it. So wherever you're at and whatever you're doing, I wish you the best.